My name is Araminta. I'm one of the lead ISTA facilitators. I've never done this workshop before, so I'm excited. I've got that new unknown territory edge feeling inside me. My intentions, I think my ultimate intention for this workshop is to support all of us to really genuinely meet ourselves with compassion when it comes to relating, particularly our romantic relationships. And also to really spark that fire of curiosity in us about what perhaps for some of us may be a completely kind of hidden purpose to our romantic relating. And then, of course, ultimately, I hope that we each leave feeling somewhat more empowered in the ways that we can walk our romantic relationships with more consciousness, aware of potentially a wider spectrum of what the heck is going on here. Because our romantic relationships are a cocktail of intense, passionate energies that impact our lives massively. So where I want to begin is to get you guys, if you have a pen and paper near you, to go ahead and just grab that. And let me change my view so I can see more of you. Yay. Hi, you guys. So grab your pen and paper and don't overthink it, but give yourself permission just to kind of write down 3, 4 people in your life that you've had a romantic journey with. It could have been a crush that was kind of not necessarily lived out or ever consummated, but that still had that intense sort of romantic energy. Okay. And if you're drinking the love potion at the moment, put that down. But it may also be someone from your early teens that really had that headiness, that cocktail that swept you up. So maybe just write down 3 or 4. If more come, write them down. But again, this is not like going to overthink it. Okay. And then in the chat, when you're ready. So one of the ideas of this talk is really that in the Western psyche, one of the most powerful forces that impacts us, both sort of psychologically and otherwise, is this power of romantic relationships. And there may be some of you on this call that maybe actually doesn't ultimately believe that sort of romantic love is actually real. Okay, I just want to hold space for those of you that actually think this could be totally a fantasy. We're going to talk about that. But you all know what I'm talking about when I say romantic love, right? And maybe in the chat, you can just share, how do you know? How would you know if you were like in love? What would that mean to you? What signs would you look for? I'm going to invite you guys just to let me know what could that be in the chat. You know, what does love at first sight feel like? Okay, what have we got? An outpouring of feeling, expansive, obsession, butterflies in the stomach, a thunderbolt. Lots and lots of energy, feeling super high, wanting to spend time with this person, erotic excitement, prioritizing that person, being filled up, an intense yearning, rush of energy. There's a lot of like descriptions of electric feelings, right? Feeling connected, can't sleep, flying, not grounded. It feels like someone puts a spell on you that consumes you. Yeah, it fills your mind fully. It's like suddenly, kind of out of nowhere, this whole dynamic with this being is the centerpiece, right? The center focus point of our minds. Joyful thoughts and fantasies, full of sparks and fire. and sometimes not so fiery. Okay, yes. Feeling drunk in passion, an outpouring of love and ecstasy. Ooh, someone else, ecstasy. Anything more? Feeling love for everything. So what I'm getting from you guys is we're tuning into this, like, we have a collective shared agreement, right? We have a sort of a collective thought form about what romantic love is. And we're all pointing to the kind of passion and intensity, an expanding vitality, ecstasy. So we have certain expectations about what this will be like as an experience. And if we keep looking at it, it's often it's something that kind of lifts us out of the ordinary, right? We feel more alive, more intense, more vibrant, connected to everything. I mean, we're starting to almost describe like a transcendent experience. Would you guys agree with that? It's like we have associations with the power of being in love, with the power of love moving through us with another. That if I was to ask you, where else in areas of life has humanity gone in search for such an experience? Do you go to the gym? Drugs? So I'm hearing the religion, the temple, spirituality, dancing, medicine journeys, the moon. Okay, so these are so beautiful. This is really rich, actually, what you guys are touching on, because these are paths to transcendence, paths to the ecstasis. But of all of the ones you guys are naming, my premise, and it may be changing today in the stage of our human evolution, but my premise is that in the Western psyche particularly, the number one kind of most common, most kind of collectively shared, agreed understanding is through romance. Okay. And it's kind of like it's like we're fish in the ocean and we're swimming in this belief form, this collective cultural agreement that we can't quite necessarily see it for the powerful force. And this premise of this workshop is that it's an evolutionary force that it actually is. So part of the intention of this workshop is to kind of allow us fish to get a sense of what ocean we're swimming in. And this ocean is laden with powerful, and I would argue, transformational, evolutionary energies. Like this ocean's been dosed. And when we're not aware of what we're swimming in, it tends to make our romantic love life filled with drama and disappointments, right? Giddy heights and massive breakdowns. And I think we've all been there. At least once. You've been around the washing machine of the intensity of, love potion number 9. And no matter how hard you got, dumped on your ass at the end of it, there is still, I am guessing, all my money, there's a part of you yearning for that ecstatic taste of the love potion again. And if you're not currently in it, there's a part of you yearning for it. Am I right? You're like, is there still that raise the hand option? There used to be. So, I'm not saying that romantic love is necessarily new, like it just arrived in the last 100 years. But I am going to argue that it's new in the sense that it went kind of mainstream. So like the ancient Greeks talk about a love, they talk about many types of love. What's shifted is that we've made it our primary way of actually relating. We are now inside this love potion, mixing kind of an alchemical form of love that I'm going to unpack in a moment, with all of our human love expectations. And we're trying to do it all through each other's as mortal humans. So partly what we're going to do today is kind of separate what are the ingredients inside this love potion, so we can look at what we're swimming in this ocean, and hopefully from understanding all these different nuances, we'll be able to do the whole thing a little bit better, or hopefully a little bit more gracefully. So what the heck am I going for? Okay, I'm going to go start here. If you guys think back to, so we already identified that of all these expectations we have and all these things we associate with being in love, it's actually the same search that we really have associated for, thousands of years, at least in humanity, for the spiritual quest. And for some of us, it may come as a massive surprise, because Western society is considered incredibly rich in kind of outer physical material riches, but incredibly poor in inner soul riches. There's this idea that we've lost, right? We've lost connection with something fundamental, and we are desperately seeking it. We are desperately seeking that which is beyond our sense of our little self. And this is a religious journey. And actually what's crazy to me, that when you track back the kind of roots of the idea of romantic love, you find that it's totally held within a spiritual religious concept. So if you want to travel back in time with me, a lot of the idea of romantic love can be kind of linked to often like 12th century poetry, the kind of troubadour songs, this idea of the kind of the knight falling in love with the fair maiden. And all of a sudden, from about then, in literature and in mythology, we get this outpouring of romantic myths. We get like Tristan and Isolde, we get the Romeo and Juliet stories later on. And these archetypes of romantic lovers kind of enters the Western psyche. And that can be understood to be an outpicturing of something that's actually happening within our inner worlds. But if we tune in, and that's from an earlier root of like the Cathar, it's a spiritual ideal of actually merging with our soul. Jung, for those of you that are Jungian, will have heard of this idea of having an anima or an animus. It's like the unseen in my inner world. I have a female body. I may be more feminine. So what's gone into my shadow? What's the mystery? The other half of me, the part that I seek to become whole, could be understood as my animus, the divine masculine that is hidden. And for men, generalizing here, there's the search for the feminine, right? The divine feminine, their anima, the other half that makes one feel whole. But historically, that was always understood to be a symbolic search. That was not to be sort of lived out in the nitty-gritty. It's like in the olden days, there was a real separation. There was a real demarcation between this kind of spiritual love that was aspirational, that we would devote ourselves to maybe an outer being, a fair lady or a king, an ideal, but it would never be consummated. There would never be sex. There would never actually be like trying to live together and like do the dishes. That it was used as almost like a meditational point to generate these energies of yearning, of an ideal to purity, that we use the outer as a symbol. And if you look in in so many traditions and a lot of the original tantric practices, we are consciously using the other as an outer human, as a portal to be a placeholder, to represent something that is far beyond us ordinary mortals. So we have this trickling down of an understanding that has, for the most part, been lost, at least to the collective consciousness in the West, around the incredible, powerful energies that start to move through us when we fall in love. Because it's almost like in Western society, we've become so cut off from our soul. We've been so cut off from the archetypal realms. We've been so cut off from the divine. And it's so taboo, really, to be religious, if we're honest, right? It's like, that's just not scientific. The materialistic paradigm does not have space for magic, does not have space for symbolic language. Now, I'm guessing many of you on this call have personal practices that help you bring that back in. But I hope you'd agree with me that our collective has denied it. All those doors have closed for the most part, except this one. It's like divine, or our souls are so clever. They found a crack in the chink of kind of material consumer capitalist patriarchy, right? And that chink is this falling in love. It's the carrier now of actually an evolutionary impulse. And that's our genuine impulse to connect with our transcendent self. This is big stuff. This is a big, big unconscious force coming from within us to evolve and to become more whole, to know that which is beyond that which is what we know of ourselves. So when we do fall in love, and I love how, then there's other catch-22 when many of us are very consciously trying to call in love and call in the right relationship and opening ourselves up to partnership and making our, lists of what we're looking for and owning our desires, and we're doing all the practices. We're healing from our past relationships. And there's this kind of idea that like we're in control, like we're looking for love, like it's an Easter egg hunt, and then I'm going to find it, and then I'm going to pick it up, and I'm going to hold on to it. I'm not going to lose it. Like even the way we talk about love, there's like this vague hope that we might be able to control it. But I think another part of us knows that there's something going on here that's actually like it's not in human control. And we'll have tons of strategies, and we'll buy all the courses that say, if you follow these 5 steps, you're going to, it's going to magic, it's going to happen. And then you're going to have all the skill sets to keep that going, right? Oh, buy that course, right? So we're in this little bit of a conundrum. Let me keep an eye on the time here. So I want to say, what's in this love potion? So we've got our unconscious yearning, not just for a great relationship, not just for passionate, wild sex, not just for companionship and stability. Literally, potentially, what we're suggesting here is like, this is the wisdom of your soul. This is the most powerful evolutionary force at the moment moving through the Western psyche to evolve you. This is like more powerful than gravity. This is big. Okay, so you're mixing that into your ocean. All our suppressed, unconscious, religious yearning for spiritual meaning. Big stuff. Then we've got the actual like matching kind of your soul power that's trying to connect with you and trying to get your attention and trying to wake you up to the fact that you have all this unexpressed, value and potential, and it wants to help you live it, right? So when you fall in love with this other person, you project your soul, all your unexpressed, on that person. And you get to see that, okay? So that's what's also on the mix, right? And they're doing that to you. So maybe just for, do we want to do this now? Yeah, let's do this now. So go back to your piece of paper and see if you can go back to being in the heady, in love, chemical doped up rush of being in love with that person. Even if it was just a crush and nothing had happened. What were the qualities that you were admiring about that person? I'm not saying they didn't necessarily have it, but you were also like, oh my God, they're just amazing. Do you remember when you were just looking at them, those rose-tinted glasses? What did you see? And see if you can, I'm going to give us, you know what? I'm going to give us a few minutes for this one. I'm going to put on a bit of music. And I'm going to invite you to take a minute or two with, take 45 seconds with each person on your list. Can I repeat the question? So the question is, when you look at this list of people that you've experienced a jolt of romantic love, I'm going to invite you to kind of own your projections. Now, this is tricky. What did I see in that person? The best of them. What did I love about them? What was so kind of titillating to me to spend time around? It was new to me. It's often new to me. Or maybe I've been wanting to have this in my life. Did you find them attractive? Often we see beauty, immense beauty. We see gorgeousness. So thank you, those of you that are sharing in the chat, and I want to encourage you to also scribble them down because these are gifts for you. Many of us from being, young teens have kind of built up the ideal other. And this works for you however your sexuality unfolds, however you identify. This is not a heterosexual thing at all. We're all in this mix. So we've been building our ideal. Yeah, our ideal fantasy, man or woman. And kind of almost every month we build the image even more, right? And they'd have this. And a lot of today's kind of do your manifestation, spell incarnations we focus even more on the other, what they will be like. In this idea, again, that when we meet the other, this is the romantic part. It's like, when we have all this other that's holding all these qualities that we deem valuable, we're going to have this giddy high, this transcendent ecstasis. So we're really owning the qualities that we deem will help make us feel whole. I'm just going to set a little timer here so I know where I am. So maybe just another minute of just allowing yourself to reflect on what was so beautiful, captivating, what drew you to this person. There was something for sure. There's always something. Give me a hands up if you feel complete on that, just so I get a sense if people want more time. Yeah, okay. So if romantic love is potentially kind of like the only channel that our soul, has to help us with this deep quest for wholeness, and we're in this challenge now of projecting this ideal image that we've cultivated onto this person. And then, of course, we want them to hold it, right? We want them to live up to this ideal. And it tends to work for a little bit. It just feels like everything's perfect. It's golden light and shimmering. If we take a moment and just sort of have a shift away from where we are in the Western psyche and romantic love, and just have a look at, let's say the East and let's say India, or let's say the concept of arranged marriages. Now, to the Western psyche of romantic love as true love, right? There's a part of us that when we're swimming in that ocean, arranged marriage can feel really, like really strange, like really contracted, you know, I mean, in some ways tantamount to rape. And like you can see how there's a whole different energetic that the Western psyche, or the part that idealizes romantic love as true love, and a different set of potential energies and values that are held in, let's say, arranged marriage, or an understanding or concept of love and its role. There's something different going on here, right? Potentially for us to explore in and of ourselves. And in some ways, the way I look at it is like there's the romantic love that holds and carries mostly our collective unconscious yearning for divine, right? Or beyond this world. And then there's the very human desire for stability and relationship. Okay. And actually, it can be really helpful. And that's really the premise of this workshop. It can be hugely helpful for us to allow ourselves to, at least for a time, separate these two out and really understand and value both sets of very powerful drives. Okay. Because what's happened in today's world is they've all gone into the love potion and all these energies are mixed together. And we're trying to get them all through. Even if you're open relating and you've got 100 lovers, you're still trying to get this experience through mortal human. Okay. So let's say we have evolutionary love that expands our consciousness through its intensity, through its passion, through its, you know, electrifying, inspirational aliveness. I love quite a few of you wrote kind of like, it's like being hit by lightning. On an evolutionary consciousness level, love is definitely able to be seen as an evolutionary force coming from beyond into our reality and expanding us forever. It's like it opens gateways to an experience of being in love as being like high. Those are, you know, the difference of when we fall out of love and you kind of come back down to earth, and that sense of, wow, in a way, when I focus on that part of the journey, it makes me realize, wow, this force can take us out of the ordinary so strongly. Yeah. It is such a portal. Just want to see if any questions are coming in now. Is this bringing up any confusion, or am I being clear? Kind of open a few doors here. It's landing. So we're in a bit of a pickle, in my opinion, because we're asking a lot of each other. So one of the questions, can you make the projection less juicy? Well, I want to say that this talk is not to like debate whether romantic love is good or bad, because it's too late. Like, we're in it. It's like, this is what's happening in the Western psyche, and the only way is through. But the way through is to bring more consciousness to what's going on. And I feel like the key here is first to massively understand that we are dealing with, you know, godly forces are at work through us, and we are not in control. Okay. But that doesn't mean that we can't be as awake to what's happening. We're being swept in a current. And this love potion is designed, you know, to take us on a massive journey. Unfortunately, our ego, and outpictured through consumer capitalism, is trying to sell it to us and tell us a totally different story about what's going on. All right. And we spend huge amounts of time kind of playing a game with each other to continue the myth making. So, if you guys, one of the intentions was to encourage all of us, in order to become more conscious, we need to be so fucking real with ourselves and honest about where we may be consciously pretending to be something we're not, and kind of denying our humanness and pretending to be divine to each other. So, I'm gonna gender stereotype for a second, with your permission. But let's say if those of us in female bodies, like as women in the West, we may now kind of, especially in our kind of communities, in these kind of conscious community settings, we may consciously kind of rebel about, and men too, like we may rebel against the traditional human roles of wife and husband. Like, I'm not going to be your cook, and the man's no longer like, I'm not going to, work all the time and pay all the bills. We are in some ways kind of shaking off those expectations from each other, potentially, right? There's been some shift around that. But in other ways, I live in a sort of new age bubble here in Guatemala. It's really common for us to like dress up as gods and goddesses, or kind of like everyone's, divine sister, and we're wearing, people are sparkling themselves up. So I'm calling to my sisters, but the guys are doing it too in different ways. It's like, I may be rejecting the traditional human roles, but I'm happy to, beautify myself and play the role of your perfected woman, right? And those of you in male bodies, where are you doing that too? Whether you're doing that on the physical level and turning your body as close to some hunky god's body as possible, or whether you are, a inflow human, up-leveling yourself with all your gadgets, so you are basically divine, next level superhuman, right? Worthy of my divine queen, right? Like all of our languaging, particularly nowadays in our community, is, if we understand what's happening, it's beautiful. It's like when we're doing it consciously, but there can be a place, just for this example, I'm just going to talk about women's bodies, because women have been objectified in the romantic love, and objectified in the marriage contraction for so long. We can potentially see how addicted we have become to being willing to be a projection screen for the opposite person's animus. You guys with me here? Yeah. Okay. And this is hard to admit, you guys, but this is where the work is, in my opinion. If you can be bold enough to go, wow. Because it's almost like we can kind of sense what the other person, it's like, wow, I fall in love with you. And I just see your golden chat, I just see your golden side, and I project all my unlived, unexpressed qualities, and I just admire them. And the fact that you're into me now, well, that's just mind-blowing, because now all my negative self-talk is blown out of the water, because you're basically divine. And if you think I'm okay, then basically I can't be the piece of shit that I regularly tell myself I am. I finally feel amazing because I'm actually in love with myself. I'm being loving to myself because I'm like, well, maybe I'm okay, right? Which is beautiful that that's possible, because that's what actually is being in love with our full self, right? The full self, big S, with a soul. That's actually what we could ultimately be getting in relationship with, our soul. But we're going through this other person, okay? But we haven't been taught the fact that that's what's happening. We've just drunk the love potion. We don't realize there's like cosmic forces at play. We just think, you're hot, you're amazing. You like me? That's amazing. I'm being a little facetious, but no, that's... So it's a lot to put on each other. It's a lot to hold each other on. And we cling. Right? We cling to the love potion. We want it to last forever. we're terrified of it running out, right? So it's like the love potion, with great intelligence, I believe, is designed to only last a certain amount of time. All the myths, it's like they went into a dream and then, dawn came, or they woke up from the enchanted garden and they realized they're like, or they suddenly remember that they left the kingdom, and they, because when we're in love, all of our human things that were so important to us, like our job, our friends, our hobbies, you can fall in love and like totally not see your family, like quit your job, move to another country. You can like, nothing matters, right? You're gone, right? It's strong stuff, right? And then suddenly you kind of like, oh, wait, what happened? Do you guys know what I mean? So like, wow, I haven't played the guitar forever. I haven't invested any energy in my friends, and I've let everything slide. So I want to finish a couple threads. I'm going all over the place. It's so addictive, and we learn to kind of keep the love potion going in the sense that I will continue to try to be your ideal. All right. Like, we kind of try and hide the humanness for as long as we can. Or, and there's a lot of techniques that kind of like how to keep the passion going. We need to keep reviving it. But if we can start to really understand that yearning is actually for our inner marriage. So in Tantra, there's this idea of it's an inner union with our souls. This is nothing that we'll ever actually find and hold onto from the outside. And actually that whole attempt to try to outpicture our soul and possess it, this is more the ego, right? So we're in this dance that we fall in, we get raised up, and then we get put down, boom. And because we don't have the initiations and we don't have the support, for most of us, that's when we leave the relationship or thereafter, okay? When the other person can no longer hold our projection screen, can no longer live up to this in-love feeling, when we're no longer so high. Our romantic love collective psyche says, I got to find it somewhere else. I mean, this is the purpose of life, Like, you got to go for the quest again. Or there's always that concern. And so we're torn as humans. We're in this dance. Celestial love, this huge unconscious drive to unify with our soul, to expand between the known, and a very powerful and equally beautiful, I'm going to speak a lot more about this hopefully soon, human love. What is human love? Right? Because the challenge, and I'll go back to those of us women who, have been taught to become the image of the idealized partner, or the idealized woman, be the superwoman in whatever way you chose to do that, right? Or those be physically beautiful, be super nurturing, be super sexy, whatever, funny, multitasker, Instagram all color coordinated. In order to receive that gaze, the payoff is a big price, right? You may get the feeling of being worshipped, right? You may hold a point for the adulation and the prayer. But what you don't get is the personal love. You don't actually get seen. And you're left with that feeling of never being seen or heard or really known. And men, I know you have this too. If you spend your whole time being Superman, you're never, or she's only with you because she's drinking the love potion. Sorry for being heterosexual normative, but just for examples. There's going to be a part of you that goes, ooh, I'm not actually seen here. I'm just a projection screen. I know you guys know that pain. It's very lonely, right? So the good news is the love potion wears out. I know it doesn't feel great, but an evolutionary moment in your journey, that's your window. This gateway opens, this portal to actually reclaiming your projection and actually building and developing your relationship with your soul, right? For taking the projections back and going, wow, everything that you've been holding for me, I need to now take responsibility, actually is me. And I need to decide whether I need to live this, like fully be it. Okay. And as we're willing to do that, as we start to kind of come down and take back those projections, there's actually the opportunity to kind of go, oh, hello, who are you? You're a human. Have we met? There's this chance to really be curious about this individual who's as messy and flawed as you are. And then really see if we can start to build human love. And human love, you know, again, it's a different muscle. It's a different type of love to love. And it's so beautiful because it is born of friendship, of deep friendship, right? Of deep companionship, of deep commitment. Not because you're so shiny, because we're human, to actually see you in your light and your dark. And to see actually that human love is holy too. Right? And this is a richness, you know, as rich as the other. So they're two sides of the same coin. So our inner life, our relationship to our soul, the archetypal divine God, goddess, that is something that is yearning for each of us, and we are yearning for it. Right? The main pathway, we're all doing it, but you guys know there are others: dance, meditation, psychedelics. I mean, I know in some ways anything can be it, but the collective agreement that we're all in is this little thing called love, and particularly romantic love. And we will, so it's like when we continue to understand the powers of that love potion cocktail and know that it's going to sweep us off our feet, and no matter how amazing that new person is that we meet, no matter how godlike, that actually that's really about our soul. And we can keep taking it back in. We can keep making it about a relationship that we're having that can really only be had in our inner worlds, right? This is a symbolic, archetypal, this is a very unique relationship that we are each responsible inside ourselves. So we cultivate that. And as we cultivate that and we take responsibility for that, we kind of free ourselves. It doesn't mean we don't still get swept up, but as we get swept up, we can continue to kind of bring it in, right? Bring it back to ourselves. And then we don't expect our outer human beloveds to carry the weight of our projections. And that frees us up for the human love, for the deep, ongoing, stable, enduring love of friendship that can have sexuality, that can go do the laundry and cook the meals and pay the bills as acts of holy love. So when we understand what's at play, both are possible. When we don't understand what's at play and we are trying to get our soul needs and evolutionary needs met through each other, that's when we get in these massive, dramatic, codependent, where you're just living for the passion and you're just fuck everything else in your life and you're kind of burning everything else, and then you fucking hate each other the next minute and you're breaking up and I wish you were dead. And then, like that kind of powerful energies is because we're attempting to control energies and live them out on a human level when they need to be done archetypically. And those of you, so I'm getting, how? Yeah, and this is where we're all in school. Those of you that have been through some of the ISTA containers will know that's definitely a part of one of the major parts we're doing, as far as learning to take responsibility for our emotional body, right? So often in projections, if I'm asking you to hold my soul and be divine, I'm expecting you to kind of always make me feel good. As soon as it stops feeling amazing, I'm out of here. This obviously ain't real love. So we learn to take responsibility for really feeling our feelings and not holding our partner accountable. We also do in the level 1, we do a lot of work with this concept of having a contrasexual self. So if you are in a female body, let's say you predominantly identify as feminine, then your contrasexual self would be an inner masculine. And it can be so powerful and a lot of fun to really give your inner couple names different from your own. So if you're in a dyad, if you're in a partnership with someone else, there's actually 4 of you. And I really, really recommend giving them names and giving it really fascinating, because it allows you to start to identify these energies that want to express and they want to have space. Because even if you're a kind of functioning couple, well for 7 years, any part of you that doesn't get room in the relationship will start to ask for room at some point. And if you get too fixed in doing things the way you've always done them, and there's no room to meet new aspects of both of you, that relationship will have to crumble, because the whole purpose is for more of us to come to the surface, for more of us to be expressed. So sometimes it's all this work you can do. Let's say you are in a partnership with someone else, is to check how your relationship is doing. So let's say there's 4 of you, that's 2 men, 2 women, or 2 masculines, 2 feminines. How are your brothers getting on? How are your sisters getting on? And how's the passion on the different cross points? I'm going to be going through some of these for sure quite quickly because of time, but I'm going to throw out some ideas. And if you're interested, this is so much about what the ISTA trainings are about as we move into the level 2 initiations, and also doing ceremony to really honor this inner integration of ourselves and to kind of show up for our inner marriage, to really commit to self-love. Level 2, we do a lot more work with the soul. Like there's a part of us that we're wanting to merge with, that is beyond this known self. And how do we work with archetypal energies? And these are big energies, and how we can work with them consciously rather than getting distorted, and how to walk through the hall of mirrors. I do have some more concrete tricks, but not tips rather. But the biggest one for me is to have the meta frame of what you're dealing with when you navigate relating. Right? So there's this real power. I want to go back to this power moment, because instead of becoming disenchanted, oh God, they're just the same as everyone else, the partner suddenly loses the golden sheen. If you're one of those people that that's often when things break up and you want to jump into the next one. You may say, oh, I'm going to take some time for myself, or I'm just going to be with myself. But then you quickly find yourself falling in love again. Yep. And that pattern just repeating. I really want to draw your attention to this PowerPoint moment when the love potion starts to wear off. Because that's that moment where we can say, wow, I actually get to kind of reclaim this part and live this part of my soul now, and start to really embark on human love with this being. So I usually celebrate when you start to have a few arguments, right? The honeymoon period is over. From an evolutionary perspective, that's actually a really exciting chapter, because when you finally kind of give up putting on all the pretty masks and only showing your best faces to each other. And, kind of stuff starts bubbling up. And it's actually a sign that there's enough love in your container for you to start doing the shadow work, really, right? It actually means that you trust each other enough for the real you to start to show. And that can be that test. Wow. It can be like, wow, where do I want to run? Where am I not interested in human love? Where am I really wanting to just be in this divine love? But then be honest with yourself that you're never going to find it in an outer human. You'll find moments of portals towards it, but actually what you're looking for is your soul. Now then we can play. And this is like, this is when you go to tantric ritual and you call in gods and goddesses and you sit before each other, right? But we're doing that without the conscious intention a lot of the times. Let me take a break and just see any more questions coming up or just comments that you guys want to share. We're doing good on time. And if anyone wants to unmute and speak their question out, just maybe raise your hand. And Stephen, if you're open to unmuting. If not, we'll carry on. So fun to scroll through and see you guys. Take a stretch and a breath and just notice how this is landing in your body. What's happening? Is it making sense? Is it feeling good? Is it kind of a bummer? Yeah, just allow your body to move. And
can I share a few words?
Please.
Yeah, so it's both exciting and very traumatic to hear the truth. The idea that the search is actually for our own soul. Sorry, I've just turned my camera off because I'm walking around. The idea that we're searching for our own soul and that we that achieving a real stable love. The reality of taking the drama out of the whole thing is a bit upsetting, I think, at some level.
Thanks for sharing. I love your honesty. And I think it's really important to know that there's going to be a part of us that will always want to go into romantic love, will always want to drink the love potion, and may always, go there and leave everything else behind. Especially if we're not constantly developing our own inner marriage, right? We can get lost in the outer. So one of the things I intended to talk about was, in ISTA we talk a lot about, a lot of sacred sexuality spaces. We talk about 3 different sacred sexual pathways that are all sacred and all transformational, as in they all lead to soul evolution. So that would be monogamy, celibacy, and polyamory, or sort of open relating. And they all have these doorways to transcendence, to this great love, this greater love, this union. Love is a unifying force to our soul, to divine. So, Stephen, if you're open, I might move towards the breakout rooms in a little bit, and just give you guys a chance to drop in with a couple others on this call, and we're going to take 5, let's give you 2 minutes each, so 6 minutes. I'm going to let you guys self-time. Maybe Stephen will put a little changeover every 2 minutes, but I trust you guys to self-organize. Just a chat, and maybe one of you take monogamy, one of you take celibacy, and one of you take open relating, and just see how that could be a sacred sexual pathway that could support you to open to your soul and to build human love, but also what are the shadows? How could it possibly prevent you from opening to your soul and you could get more lost in projection? Or how could it prevent you from coming down and honoring the sacred ordinary of human love? Does that question make sense? So it's going to be a 2-minute each little chance to just brainstorm whatever's coming up for you about these different pathways, and just have a chance to get to know each other just a little bit through this inquiry. Any questions about that? If you want to put them in the chat.
Yeah, just give me a minute. I'm almost ready.
Great. Thanks, Stephen. So whoever jumps into the conversation first, just pick one of the 3 that most interests you and see what comes out your mouth as you explore. How could celibacy be a pathway that supports, opening to your soul and human love? And where could it potentially be a way of, or where do we fail? Where do we fail and we fall into the projection? Or where do we fail to really move into human love? So what you're going to see on the screen, I'm sure you guys are ready, is you're going to be invited to a breakout room. Please do, take these moments. Invitation to have your camera on. I should have said this from the start, but again, it's your choice. But this can be powerful chances to get some connection in a time when we are pretty starved for connection. And I know this isn't a personal share, but hoping it can be a rich way of connecting all the same. If you have... Okay, great.
We're ready.
See you on the other side. Stephen. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Just a sense of, was that enough time to at least start to explore that topic? Can you kind of give me a little understanding? Yeah. First time doing this, so, it's like baking a new cake. I'm not sure how much of all the ingredients to add here. I was laughing with my partner today, just before coming on this call, because I was sharing with him what I was going to be talking about and how powerful this moment of like the love potion kind of running out and us having this chance to really meet in human love and to really see the real human and to value each other as a human and to actually meet as equals rather than like a worshiper to the divine, or to really find that portal of we're sacred as we are. And we've just been on this crazy adventure challenge in Guatemala where we live to raise money for an NGO, and it included jungle treks and all this kind of stuff. But I got super sick. A bunch of us got super sick, and I was like projectile vomiting on the plane and in the car. And we've had like stomach issues and all this stuff, all the very human, messy human stuff that is great at penetrating through the projection screens of being divine, So we were celebrating that because it's like we dance in and out of holding points for each other and building our abilities, both on this soul love and this human love. So I left you guys with that inquiry around how does celibacy and monogamy and, let's say, polyamory both support or potentially block kind of love's evolutionary medicine for us. And I'd love to invite you guys to share in the chat what you discovered. We don't have enough time to hear from so many of you, so I feel like that'll be a good opportunity for me to kind of track what you found, because for me, it's a really rich inquiry. So maybe just, if you want to share, maybe start your comment with one of the three, celibacy or open relating or monogamy. I guess I'll start just thinking of, celibacy, although not so conscious celibacy, let's say, because I distinguish between, we may go through periods in our life talking about being celibate, but it can be just times where we don't get any, but we would have liked to, it just didn't happen, as opposed to making a conscious decision to not seek, actually, to really not seek and to not run or not act on any love potion energies or any sexual energies, right? And I don't say they're the same thing, sexual energies and love potion. I think love potion has more mixed in the mix. But if we are talking about conscious celibacy, obviously some of the potential ways that could support us, particularly in this kind of spiritual aspirant, soul union love, is that it could be a way of us consciously not getting lost in the outer projection, right? It could be a way of us consciously spending our time working on inner union, right? Really seeking, putting our energy in our spiritual practices. And presumably for human love as well, it can be that journey to really love and accept ourselves in our human messiness, and all of our shadows and all of our weird little traits and our, lacking in perfected virtues and our jealousies and our insecurities and our, that's some fireworks going on here. Guatemala. This could be a while. But what is the shadow? What could the shadow be for celibacy? I invite you guys to type. I'm just going to close my windows. Can you guys think of any shadows of potentially how walking a path of sacred celibacy consciously could actually be a way that could block you from either? I'm just going to close the other side of the window. I'm back. Sorry, you guys. My chat screen was not showing me your chats. Celibacy can lead to denying our primal desires, leading to resentment of ourselves and others. Yes, it could be this place where we're suppressing rather than actually expanding into actually knowing ourselves, right? It could come from fear, trauma. It could be an attempt to control and actually block our soul from knocking on our door, right? Through romantic love, potentially. And it could also be a way of just avoiding developing that human love muscle as well. And it's just too much fucking effort. Who wants to do relationships? Yeah, that can be on both. I'm fine by myself. We've all been taught the power of being independent. So let's switch gears for a second from celibacy into monogamy. So how can a committed relationship with one other person potentially serve our soul evolutionary love impulse? Let's see what's coming in. And how could it serve human love? Really discovering another person. Someone saying it could help us work on our shadows by reflecting our deep core wounding. Yeah, that's profound. There's this idea that in a committed, stable relationship, often we have that safety for unprocessed stuff to actually surface and come into the light and be met in the gaze of another, and that can support us to actually love and accept it within ourselves. Monogamy shadow, taking other person prisoner. avoiding feelings of sexual love and attraction towards others. Yes. I'm still getting fireworks. I hope you guys can hear this. So where do we actually kind of try and trap the other person to become that kind of full-time carrier of our projections, right? Or where do we kind of stay in the human love and we just kind of deny and avoid all that love potion energy that sometimes we may feel towards others, right? That's actually holding the projection of our soul. We just avoid that because that's a bit too much energy. Positive, allowing each person to explore the divine with a teammate in their corner, coming together in mutual intention. Exactly, beautiful. Thank you, Jace. This opportunity to consciously relate, consciously hold space for being each other's projection point for divine and supporting each other to reclaim the projections and create space for doing the soul work and not instead constantly dress up and just try to keep the projection screen going because we're addicted to this high, right? But we're constantly supporting each other to collapse it. Checking the time here, let's move quickly to open relating and polyamory. So how can having more than one lover really support us to connect with our soul? What comes up for you guys? And equally taking comments on how could it support us with human love? Or alternatively, what could the shadows be with open relating? It's an excellent practice of non-attachment, which is actually love. So potential for open relating to kind of stop us from maybe falling into an outer projection and holding one particular person too tightly, getting too codependent with one. So it can support us potentially to have to keep coming back to ourselves. Yes. It could force you to face your insecurities so it can bring up all the places where we don't think we're lovable, can spotlight that quite quickly. Yeah. Encourages communication around our needs and desires. So does that support human love? I could see how that can, communication in general with others is a key part of human relating. Open relating tends to be shorter in duration in my experience, so harder to get that time of human love. So potentially, especially if we're doing open relating, that's particularly that love potion time, right? If we're just like, whew, wow, swept away, swept away, swept away, swept away, and we're kind of bouncing between our lovers, constantly surfing the giddy heights, we could be never getting to the end of the love potion serum come down, where we can actually really do the deep work of actually taking responsibility for owning those projections, coming back to our soul, taking responsibility for actually living that stuff rather than just hanging out with it through other people. And we may be bypassing actually developing that kind of committed love, the way you actually see a real person, where you're actually really relating with a human in all your colors, right? Let me just see if there's any avoiding deep intimacy. So I would potentially put that under the deep human intimacy, that place where beneath the projections. So just a few final minutes. Suddenly the time comes. It's like, hopefully this talk has sort of given us all a bit more of a viewpoint or a vantage point to see the challenge before us. And it's a beautiful challenge, but it's a hefty one, and I'm sure it's got a few more 100 years to go fully in our psyches before we're really able to do this with significant mastery as a collective, as becoming a norm for us to be able to be drawn, into each other and actually understand this for the transformational soul journey that it is, and deeply, deeply, equally love human love. So we're in this, it's like we actually come to find that despite what we've been told, we actually aren't really seeking to be loved. We're actually seeking to love. Yeah. And then we're actually seeking to love, but to love without illusion and to see one another clearly. One of the pieces of the puzzle that I'm passionate about, that's been really big for me in my own sort of spiritual journey, but also in 2020, was the breakdown of relationships. So I was saying that this can be this huge catalyst moment, and that there is so much soul power and evolutionary capacity, but also human love and self-love when we're going through breakups. So if you are suffering from a breakup, or when you look at that list of people on your piece of paper, there's a journey to be had where we can go back from our past, reclaim our projections, and kind of untwist anywhere where we've got a lot of pain in our hearts, right? Or we're blocking ourselves from either human love or soul love because it was so painful in the past. And we can start to relook at what happened from this different perspective and actually honor ourselves and honor everything that led us to whatever that journey was like. And to reclaim the parts of us that we may have left behind, but also reopen our hearts. Come back into honoring what you learned from that particular dose of love potion and what it's taught you about who you are. And so if anything like that is of interest, that's really at the core of what my resilience journey is about. And so that's also kind of an emotional breakup support system, but it's really about turning that breakup, or if you're going through a death of a loved one, taking that gateway of intense emotions and turning it into the really powerful self-transformational portal that it can be. So that's something called resilience. And if you want to stay in touch with me, please do. I'm in this place where I think I'm going to get off Facebook, if ISTA will help me do that. And so I'm wanting to kind of just move to less communication, but more poignant communication through email once in a blue moon. So if you're interested in staying in touch, you can follow me on Facebook. And if you go to my website, which is just my name, aramintabarba.com, a pop-up will show up and you can enter your email there. It might say something about resilience, or it might say something, I don't know what it says, but if you give me your email, you won't suddenly be bombarded with a lot of emails. I will know it's from this festival, and I will add you to my mailing. My hope is to come up with a course later this year using a lot of the techniques that I've developed with my partner to help us work archetypically, but yet in our day-to-day relating, and help us do the soul love and collapse of projections and create safe space for us to meet all these parts of ourselves that are wanting to come through, and equally hold space for the messy shadow and the messy humanness. So if that's something that interests you, yeah, find me on my website, and I'll let you know whenever that lands.
There's one other question there. Are you still on Telegram?
I am. My Telegram group is a private group, which any of you ISTA grads are welcome to join. It's a monthly coaching. I totally forgot about this. It's called the Soul Sanctuary. It involves a monthly Zoom call for 90 minutes. It also has another 60-minute Telegram Q&A, and I create new content there. I provide 3 videos a month for that group. So if you're interested in that, I'm going to send you a link because it's actually not advertised, but it's yeah. Can you guys still hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Let me just see something. Yeah, I haven't promoted it, but if there's a handful of you guys that are interested, you know what? It's kind of an invite-only thing. If any one of you is interested in knowing more about that, send me a little message on Facebook, or message me through my site, and I'll send you the link, and you can decide if it's for you. I want to grow it really slowly, so thank you guys so much. Where did you go? There you are. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for your interest in this topic. I hope you found it of use. It's always fun delivering a new exploration and getting to see how it lands. So I really welcome feedback and comments. I hope this serves you guys as we all learn to let love move through us, to expand us, and to also meet each other really as the humans that we are, and to actually really see the sacredness of our messy human lives. Blessings to you all, and I'll see you. I'll be around on the Facebook chat if you guys want to hang out with me more.
Thank you.
Why is it hard on my own world? Why am I not like her? Be more so